Why do the most dangerous individuals in history rarely resemble villains? What do relentless leaders have in common with masters of manipulation and silent strategists? The answer lies in a principle as counterintuitive as it is lethal. True power does not shout, it whispers. It does not impose presence, it hides. And it is precisely in this invisibility that invincibility resides. Sun Tzu, the legendary Chinese strategist, wrote over 2 millennia ago that the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. But what does this mean in practice? It means that the safest path to victory is not to demonstrate strength, but to conceal it, to appear weak, hesitant, harmless, while behind the scenes, preparing a devastating attack. This concept, explored in the classic The Art of War, is one of the most misunderstood ideas in strategic thinking. It requires not only tactical intelligence, but an almost inhuman mastery over one's own ego. In a modern world where everyone competes to appear stronger, more competent, more self-assured, those who know how to seem harmless become invisible and therefore unattainable. While fools flaunt themselves, the wise gather information. While the insecure shout to be heard, the powerful listen in silence. The battlefield could be a boardroom, a family dinner, or an emotional conflict. In all these scenarios, those who strategically appear weak often win before the first confrontation. This video explores in depth how the appearance of weakness has become one of the most effective weapons in the psychological arsenal. From the perspective of neuroscience, Eastern philosophy, and behavioral psychology, we're going to explore why being underestimated is a profound advantage. When someone believes you're weak, they lower their guard. In that vulnerable moment, they reveal everything: their fears, their plans, their hidden flaws. This isn't about submission. It's about control. It's about turning how others see you into a carefully crafted trap. By the end of this journey, you won't just understand the power of disguise. You'll know how to use it in your personal, professional, and emotional life. Because the reality is brutal. No one protects themselves from an attack they never saw coming. That's exactly why the truly dangerous people often don't look dangerous at all. Most believe power must be obvious, loud, imposing, even feared. But this view is childish, primitive, driven by animal instinct that still rules much of human behavior. Thousands of years ago, Sun Tzu grasped a more sophisticated truth. Power that reveals itself too early is destined to be neutralized. True power is invisible. It moves in shadows, disguises itself as weakness, and turns invisibility into a weapon. The principle of strategic invisibility isn't just a tactic of war, it's a mental model, a way to navigate the world with an unfair advantage, even when you appear at a disadvantage. Because every human being, upon sensing a threat, activates defense mechanisms. The mind closes, the body tenses, attention sharpens. But in the face of what seems harmless, all those barriers crumble. The other person disarms without realizing it. And that's precisely where the danger lies. Picture a battlefield where your enemies don't even know you're a combatant. While they bark orders, fight for space, and expose themselves, you simply watch. You listen. You gather precious information. And when the time is right, you strike. Not with brute force, but with precision, using time, space, and intelligence as your weapons. That is true invincibility. Not the kind that survives attacks, but the kind that's never attacked, because it was never perceived as a threat. In modern life, this concept applies everywhere. At work, you don't openly battle egotists. You let them tangle themselves up while you quietly build your position. In relationships, you don't reveal your deepest emotions to people who haven't earned them. You observe. You test. You read them while staying neutral. In negotiations, you present yourself as flexible, open, even unsure. This gives the other side a false sense of control. By the time you reveal your true position, they've already shown all their cards, their expectations, their limits, their weaknesses. Sun Tzu said, "When near, appear far. When far, appear near." It's a game of illusion. And in this game, the other person's ego is your greatest weapon. Their desire to dominate, to win, to feel superior, that's what you manipulate by seeming defeated. Because the easiest victory is the one where your opponent doesn't even know there's a battle. The most effective trap is the one where the victim thinks they're in control. This principle demands self-control. It requires you to let go of the urge to prove yourself, to seek validation. It takes emotional intelligence to hold back, but in return, you gain a power that can't be fought, because it can't be found. It seeps inside the other person, corrodes their perceptions, confuses their instincts, and exploits every opening they give you while believing you're weak. But this doesn't work without a deep understanding of the human mind. You must understand why people underestimate others, what mental shortcuts lead them to drop their guard, and how harmlessness allows you to control interactions without ever raising your voice. Soon, we'll dive into these hidden psychological mechanisms and reveal how underestimation becomes a powerful weapon. Because when others don't see you as a threat, they're exposed, and that's when the real game begins. If this message resonates, subscribe and stay with us, because the human mind is deeply vulnerable to illusion. From childhood, we're conditioned to link strength with presence, power with loudness, authority with dominance. This is automatic, rarely questioned, and that's why underestimation is such an effective tool. When someone thinks you're weak, limited, or irrelevant, they not only let their guard down, they expose their true selves. They talk too much. They show too much. They drop their masks. This misreading doesn't happen by accident. It's carefully induced, created by a patient, calculating intelligence. When you appear shy, hesitant, or fragile, the other person projects their assumptions onto you. They think, no risk here, no threat. I can relax. Meanwhile, you're mapping their behavior, gathering information, testing boundaries, all because they were arrogant enough to believe they were in control. Underestimation exposes blind spots. Those who think they're in charge stop protecting themselves. They start to boast, confess, show off, and in this unguarded state, they reveal their fears and hidden intentions. Because when the brain senses no threat, it stops filtering. It becomes relaxed, careless, and highly susceptible to manipulation. This happens in every layer of life. In corporate environments, the quiet employee who listens more than they speak is seen as passive, while the loud egotists jostle for attention. Yet it's the quiet one who gathers silent intelligence, and when the moment comes, during a restructuring, a crisis, a promotion, strikes with precision, catching everyone off guard. The same is true in personal relationships. The person who seems too vulnerable, too naive, who avoids direct confrontation, often leads the other to feel superior. Ironically, this feeling of superiority is the beginning of their vulnerability. When we think we're smarter than someone, we stop being careful. Arrogance builds blind trust, and blind trust is a doorway to downfall. This is fertile ground for sophisticated psychological manipulation. The invisible manipulator doesn't confront, they induce. They plant ideas. They use apparent weakness, silence, hesitation, even small calculated mistakes as traps. And it works because the human ego craves validation. Nothing flatters the ego more than feeling superior. That's why so many masters of strategy and diplomacy have chosen to appear weak, not from fear, but as a deliberate path to control. The true manipulator doesn't push, they pull, doesn't command, they suggest, and never reveals themselves until it's far too late for the other to react. But this art isn't easy. It demands mastery over your own ego, the ability to resist proving yourself, to turn every gesture into a reading of the other person, to see every human interaction as a dance of perception, and to lead that dance. Now that you understand the hidden power of underestimation, it's time to see how to apply it in daily life, how to turn these ideas into concrete actions that grant you an edge without ever exposing your strategy. The key lies in the tools of silent emotional manipulation. This is what we'll explore next, the most subtle, most lethal weapons of the psychological arsenal. Knowing underestimation is powerful is only the start. True mastery is applying it with quiet skill every day in a way no one notices. This takes psychological finesse, the art of appearing vulnerable while remaining unbreakable, of yielding ground only to conquer it all later. It's here that manipulation becomes conscious strategy, and the seemingly weak person is revealed as the architect of the environment around them. The first technique is emotional disguise. In a world full of emotional triggers, most people react exactly as expected: anger to humiliation, protest to belittlement. But the strategist turns aggression into opportunity. They remain silent where others explode. They smile when others expect defeat. That smile isn't submission, it's dominance. Imagine your boss humiliates you in public. Your first instinct might be to snap back or seethe in silence. But the trained mind sees an opening. The boss lost control. By calmly saying, "I understand your position," you disarm them. Your cold, unexpected response forces them to confront their own overreach, and your mystery unsettles them. The next tool is soft language. Words are weapons, and the most lethal aren't sharp. They're subtle. Words like maybe, perhaps, I could be wrong lull others into lowering their defenses. They think they're dealing with someone indecisive or weak. Meanwhile, they reveal more, justify more, expose more. Softness isn't surrender, it's bait. Then there's the low-profile strategy. In a world obsessed with visibility, those who observe become kings. The discreet strategist avoids the spotlight by choice. They hear conversations not meant for them, witness conflicts they aren't part of, and store each piece of intelligence for the perfect moment. When they finally act, no one is prepared. The most refined tactic of all is false vulnerability, revealing carefully chosen flaws, asking naive questions, pretending not to grasp obvious logic. It all invites arrogance. The other believes you're less capable and drops their guard, only to be dismantled when control flips without warning. These aren't quick tricks. They're mental disciplines. They require patience, self-restraint, and the courage to sacrifice immediate validation for long-term influence. Because while others scream for attention, you build silent, invisible power. But power is useless if you don't know where to use it. True strength lies not just in knowing how, but in choosing when, where, and against whom. In work, relationships, family, negotiations, each has its own psychological terrain. That's where strategy turns into real victory. Soon, We'll break down exactly how to apply these principles in life's most delicate and dangerous arenas, so you can win every battle without anyone noticing you're even fighting. Because mastering the theory is only half the game. The rest is applying it quietly in the most hostile spaces of daily life, where power hides behind hierarchy, affection, or convenience. It's here that appearing weak becomes your ultimate weapon of survival, ascent, and freedom. Every word you hold back, every battle you let pass, each silent moment, they all build an influence no one else even realizes exists. Whether it's at work, with a manipulative boss, a toxic ex, overbearing family, or demanding friends, each case is a stage for silent dominance. No declarations, no clashes. Just gradual shifts that leave others surprised, powerless, and unable to rebuild what they've lost. In personal life, strategic invisibility means mastering your reactivity. Accept criticism with a smile, then weigh it internally. Yield in small conflicts to win in bigger arenas. True power is choosing which war matters, and in negotiations, appear small at first. Let them think they've won. Then guide everything back to where you'd planned from the start. In all these places, the essence of invincibility is controlling not just your surroundings, but yourself. To look weak so the world ignores you, and then to be strong enough to crush it all with a single, precise move. Why does this work so well? Because it's deeper than psychology. It's nature's law. In the wild, the lion doesn't roar before it strikes. The eagle doesn't scream before the dive. The snake doesn't hiss before it sinks its fangs. The deadliest predators don't announce themselves. They blend in, wait, and act when it counts. That's not just survival. It's a universal law. True power is silent, invisible, and unstoppable. Humans, desperate for recognition, have forgotten this. They make their power obvious and therefore vulnerable, because anything seen can be attacked. But what moves unseen infiltrates, acts from within, and cannot be destroyed. This is the essence of the final strike, the blow no one anticipates, the move that's been prepared since the first smile, the first false agreement, the first quiet nod that concealed a dagger. Nature's predators don't attack out of anger. They strike when certain. That's what separates the impulsive from the strategic. The impulsive fights to prove themselves. The strategic has already won by the time the other realizes a battle even existed. And most frightening of all, the strategic doesn't look dangerous. They seem distracted, fragile, harmless, until the ground vanishes beneath the enemy's feet. This demands discipline few possess. It means silencing your need to prove yourself, resisting small victories in favor of absolute triumph, acting not on emotion, but on vision. Because he who masters time masters everything. But make no mistake, this path is lonely. No one applauds the silent strategist. No one praises the genius until the outcome is unavoidable. You won't be celebrated. You'll be feared. And that is the true reward, the freedom to act without opposition. Because the world doesn't react to what it doesn't understand. So after this entire journey through mental strategies, subtle manipulations, and ancient laws of nature, only one question remains. Are you ready to adopt this code? To abandon the need for recognition and embrace invisible power? Before you answer, remember this. The most devastating blows aren't struck by hands, they're delivered by the mind. Empires have fallen without warning. Silent leaders have seized power without raising flags. Ordinary people have transformed their lives the moment they stopped trying to win with force and started winning with intelligence. The uncomfortable truth is simple. The world belongs to those who hide their strength until it's undeniable. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to react to every provocation. In fact, the less you show, the more you control. The less they see, the more you can move unseen. When others think you're weak, you gain the silence, time, and space to build a victory so total it doesn't even need to be celebrated. Those who shout are always challenged, always on edge. But those who appear fragile, they're ignored. And in that ignorance is born the greatest power of all, the power to surprise, to dominate, to turn invisibility into absolute rule. Modern life is a quiet battlefield. Most live exhausted, constantly reacting. The few who understand this live differently. They observe, they wait, and then they act, without noise, without warning, but with complete impact. The tiger does not roar before it pounces. The eagle does not sing before it strikes. And you, if you wish to master your reality, must also learn not to announce your moves. Real power doesn't declare itself. It's only felt when it's far too late to escape. If this message spoke to you, write in the comments. No one sees what does not provoke fear. That's how I'll know you understand the code, and more importantly, that you're ready to start using it. Share your experiences, your hidden battles, your silent victories. Because this isn't just a channel. This is about transformation, quiet, unseen, unstoppable. If you've come this far, don't stop. The next video continues this journey. Watch it. Absorb it. Because those who master the invisible master everything. And this is only the beginning.